Okay guys, so today we are going to learn how to round. So you haven't learned this yet. So far we've been building on skills we've learned in second grade. So we've done some comparing numbers, we've done some place value where we added in the thousands. So today we are going to round. So our goal for today is to round to the tens place. Now the good thing is we've already learned place value, so we're only going to focus on the tens place today. How we're going to do that, we're going to use our place value charts and we're going to use number lines. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that together, and then I'll give you guys some work to try on your own. Before we do anything, we're going to go over our vocabulary. So we already know place value. We have thousands, hundreds, tens, which is our big focus today, and ones. If you click on, I'm going to link this for you guys on Google Classroom. If you click on that, it will take you to Flocabulary. Now I had a lot of questions on Friday. A lot of students would play it. I'll show you. So it'll play for a little bit. And then it's going to pause and it's not going to let you play it. You'll have to log in, and you're going to log in as Ms. Hasdevac. I have left this in Google Classroom. So you can just use my login, and then you log in so that you have access to the videos. There's a place value one, and there is also a rounding one we're going to try today. Remember that we are using digits to make up numbers. Remember, digits take up one place value. That's why anytime we put a 1 and a 0 together, it makes a 2-digit number. It no longer is a digit, it becomes a number. We're also going to use number lines. You guys have seen these before in second grade. We're going to use numbers to fill in each line, and I'm going to show you how we round. I'm going to share this slide deck with you guys. If you click on rounding, there's an awesome video on Flocabulary you can go to. The only thing, make sure that you log in as Ms. Hasdevac. It should say Grace up at the top, and this video is going to give you a really cool song to help you remember how to round. Before we do that though, we're going to look at this picture. So this is kind of like our what do you notice, what do you wonder that we do in class. So first we're going to start with rounding. We have no sense of rounding. We haven't talked about rounding at all. But the first thing we're going to look at is this awesome number line. As you can see, there are no numbers on here, but instead there's names. We have Morgan and we have Ashley. And they're both pointing to different things. So I like to say I had a party. Now, when I had a party, I invited some friends, and my friends asked me, Ms. Hasdevac, can I bring anything to the party? And I said, yeah, actually, I'm going to need some cupcakes, and I'm also going to need a pizza. Now, you guys can decide how to get there. Now, as you can see, Morgan, she lived closer to the bakery, so she went to the bakery to get the cupcakes, and Ashley went to the pizza because she lived closer to the pizza. Oh, sorry, guys. Go back. Because she lived closer to the pizza. So this is just like rounding. Whichever number is closest to each side, it's either going to round up or it's going to round down. So the reason Morgan didn't go all the way to the pizza is because Ashley is closer to this side of the street where the pizza is, and Morgan is closer to this side where the bakery is. So that's how they kind of decided. So I like to think of this as really similar to rounding. When we round, we're going to look at a digit. We want to see what it's closest to. So for example, today we're rounding to the tens place. So I always do what do you notice, what do you wonder, but I'm going to explain to you guys what I see. I'll give you a minute to kind of look at this picture. What do you notice? What do you wonder? As you can see, the first thing I notice is right here at 57 we have a dot. So that means I'm going to take the number 57. I want to see, because we're rounding to the tens place, I want to see which full 10 it's closest to. When we're rounding to the tens place, we want to see which whole 10 something is closest to. So a whole 10 means it ends in a 0. So our whole 10's 57 falls between is 50 and 60. As you can see, 50 ends in a 0, 60 ends in a 0. So I want to use the easiest numbers possible. So I know my whole 10's are easiest. So I'm going to look at 57 and I'm going to say, what is 57 closest to? I'm going to jump to each side. First, I'm going to jump back to 50. Now, we want to use the least amount of jumps. So whichever one has the least amount of jumps is the whole 10 that it's closest to. So if I start at 57 and I jump back to 50, I'm going to jump 1 time, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 57 is 7 spots away from 50. Okay, let's see if we can beat it going to 60. So I start at 57, I jump 1, 2, 3 times. So 57 is only 3 spots away from 60. So we have to think, would it be easier to jump 3 times or to jump all the way to 7? And we know the least amount of jumps is 3, so I know that 57 is closest to 60. So if I'm rounding, I would say, show you guys, I would say that 57 is closest to 60. So I would say, what does 57 round to? It rounds to 60. Now our next question is, did we round up or did we round down? So the great way we can answer this is, if the number that we rounded to, so we rounded from 57, we rounded to 60, if that number is higher than the number we started with, we know we rounded up. If we rounded down, it would be a lower number. For example, if 57 was closest to 50, that would mean we rounded down because 50 is smaller than 57. So we know we rounded up to 60. So we would say 57 rounds to 60. Now remember, this is going to change depending on which place value we're rounding to, but today we're rounding to the tens place, so we want to use full tens. So in order to do that, we have to make sure we know how to skip count. We need to know our tens. So when rounding, we can only use solid tens. They end in 0. So let's count. We go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and then 100. For example, just like before, we had the number 57. Now, in order to see where that falls, I'm going to look at my line here, and these are going to be on every slide to help you guys. I'm going to look at 57. Let's see, would 57 go in between 10 and 20? No, way too small. Let's see, 40, 50? No, I know 57 is already in the 50s, so it would fall in between 50 and 60. So my two parameters of tens would be 50 and 60, just like we had here. So our number has to fall in between on the number line. So that's your first job, figure out what tens it would fall in between. Okay, so let's practice one together. So just like we did together, we're going to round the number 57. So I'm going to think to myself, what 50 comes before, or what 10 comes before 57? I know because it's already in there. That's kind of our trick. We can kind of look at the tens place, and whatever 10 is there, that's going to be our starting 10. So I know it's 50. So now I have to think to myself, what 10 comes after 50? I know it's 60. So that's our other 10. Now my last thing, I already did it for you guys, but is we want to place 57 on the number line. So I'm going to look at 50, and I go 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57. So I know 57 goes there. Step 3, figure out what it's closest to. You can kind of visually see. I kind of already see that this dot is closest to which one, 50 or 60? It would be closest to 60 because it's only 3 jumps, just like you saw here. So that's how you guys put it on the number line. Now let's try another one together. We already did this one. Okay, so now we have the number 32. I already gave you guys the two tens, but let's practice how they got that. So remember, my first 10 that would go right here, I'm going to know because it's already the 10 that's in my number. So I'm going to start with 30, and I'm going to put it there. Then I'm going to use my line down here, and I'm going to see which 10 comes next. I know it goes 30, and then 40 is going to be my other 10. Step 2, figure out where my dot goes on the number line. I have 30 here. I'm going to jump 31, 32. So my dot goes right there. Then I'm going to visually look. What is 32 closest to? Would it be closer to 30 or 40? As you can kind of see, it's closest to the 30, but let's count our jumps just to be sure. So I go 1, 2. So it took me 2 jumps to jump back to 30. And then let's see, going up to 40. I start here and I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we want to say, would it be easier just to jump twice or to jump all the way up and do 8 jumps? We would say it's easier to jump twice, so our number rounds to 30. Now we want to see, did we round up or did we round down? As you can tell, we were at 32 here, and we had to jump down to 30 because that's what was closest, so we rounded down. Okay guys, let's try another one. So now we're going to take the number 78. So remember that our first step is to find the two tens that our number that we're rounding to falls in between. A good trick is to use this down here. This is going to be your kind of helper. These are going up by 10, so you can kind of figure out where your number falls in between, 78. Now remember, trick 1, here's the 10 that it's already in, so we know that one's going to be our first one. We know it's 70, and then all we have to do is look down here and think, what's the next 10? 80. Step 2 is to figure out, where do we put 78 on the number line? So I have 70 here. I'm going to count over to 78 and mark it with my dot. So we start 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78. So I'm going to go ahead and drag my dot over to 78. Step 3 is to figure out which 10 is 78 closest to. Do I want to round down to the 70, or am I going to round up to 80? You can kind of visually see, again, which one it's closest to, right? We see it's a little bit further away from 70, but pretty close to 80. But let's count just to be sure. Remember, our goal is to get the fewest amount of jumps as possible. That's the one we're going to round to. All right, so we're going to start at 78. We're going to go down first. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it takes 8 jumps to round down to 70. Let's see how many jumps it takes to round up from 78 to 80. So I start here and I go 1, 2. So 2 jumps is a little bit closer than 8. So we're going to go ahead and round to 80 because it's closest. Now our last step is to think, did we round our number up or did we round down? Remember, the trick here is to think, is the number that you rounded to greater than the number you started with, or is it smaller? Remember that we started at 78 and 80 is larger, so we know we rounded up. Okay, let's try a couple more together and then you're going to try some on your own. Now this one is completely blank, so let's go ahead and try this from starting with nothing. So we're going to round our number 64. Now remember, step 1, fill in your tens that you get to round to. Remember, your trick is to look at the tens place your number is already in. Remember, tens place is here, and we are already, it's a 610. So remember, our first one's going to be 60. Then I'm going to use mine down here, or just count in your head. Okay, we know it goes 60 and then 70. Now step 2 is to figure out, where is the number that we're rounding? Where does it fall on the number line? So I'm going to count over to 64. When I find 64, I'm going to mark it with my dot. So I start at 60, 61, 62, 63, 64. All right, so I start here at 64. Now these boxes up here are for us to mark how many jumps it takes. So I'm going to put up here how many jumps it takes to jump down to 60, and I'm going to put over here how many jumps it takes to go up to 70 to kind of help us remember which one it's closest to. So I'm going to start here at 64 and I'm going to count down to 60. So count with me. Ready, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I know it took 4 jumps to jump down, and I'm going to see how many jumps I need to go up to 70. So here we go. Count with me. Ready, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know it takes 6 jumps. Now this makes it a little bit easier because all you have to do is look at those numbers and think, do I only want to jump 4 times or 6 times? Remember, we want the fewest amount of jumps, so I know that it goes down, and because it's only 4 jumps, I know that 64 is going to round to 60. Now remember, the last step is to think, did I round up or did I round down? Remember, we started with 64, we rounded to 60. So think in your head, is 60 greater than 64 or less than 64? And it should be less because it's a smaller number, so we rounded down. You can also see on the number line, when we round up, it goes this way. When we round down, it goes that way. All right, we're going to try one more together. All right, now we're going to start with 61. Now remember, the first step is to figure out what our tens are going to be. Step 1, here's our trick. We're going to look at the tens place it already falls in. We know it's in the 60s. And our next 10 is going to be in the 70s. All right, step 2, figure out where 61 goes on the number line, and I'm going to mark it with my dot. So I start at 60, go up to 61, and there I am. Now this one's pretty simple because you can kind of already see where it's closest to because it's so close to a 10. Now we see it's only one jump away from 60, so we obviously know that 61 is going to round to 60. Now remember our goal is to figure out, did we round up or did we round down? Remember, we started with 61 and we went down to 60, so we know we rounded down. Now the last thing I want to show you before you guys start on your own, what if we got the number 65? So let's pretend. So we're still in the 60s and 70s, except now our dot's not going to be on 61 anymore. We need to find where 65 goes. So we start on 60, count with me. Ready, ready, go. 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. So I'm going to mark my 65. Now I'm going to count my jumps. And then I'm going to mark them up at the top so that I know what they are. So let's make this a little bit bigger so that we can all see it together. And I'm going to make one box over on the other side, just like we had on our last slide. And I'm going to count my jumps. And remember, whichever one is fewer jumps is the one it's closest to. Okay, so we're going to start at 65 and we're going to round down. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so it takes 5 jumps to round down to 60. And we're going to try to round up to 70 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now what happens when the jumps are equal? So I have 5 and 5. Whenever you get a tie like this, it's always going to go up. It's kind of like when you have two numbers, you usually want the bigger number. So if it's a tie and you get to choose, it always rounds up. Say that with me. It always rounds up. So 65 rounded up to 70. All right, guys, now it is time to do your own assignment. So here are your slides to do on your own. It's just like what we did together. Step 1, look at your number, figure out what tens it would be in between. Remember that your first 10 is going to already be in your number. Then plot your point on the line and count your jumps. When you guys are done with all of your slides, you're going to click here on this link. Here are your math facts. All you have to do is click here and you're going to find your name in our class list. Okay? When you are done, you guys can do Freckle Math as an assignment. If you need extra math to do, that will give you guys a challenge. If you guys have questions, go ahead and click down at the bottom. You'll have a GoGuardian chat. You guys can always message me there or on Google Classroom. Good luck rounding. Remember that if you need help, go to Flocabulary. There is a video that will help you guys understand rounding a little bit better, or feel free to rewind this video, watch it as many times as you need, and I'll see you guys for our reading assignment.